This is a test of the emergency alert system.
Executive Order 10,995 allows the government to seize and control the communication media.
Our nation is at war against a far-reaching network of violence and hatred. Training camps have been struck, leaders eliminated, plots disrupted. And all those involved in the attempted act of terrorism must know you too will be held to account.
Think about it. 15 years ago, we allowed the federal government to hardwire emergency takeover systems of all major communications and media in the United States. Now the federal government's coming out in the open and admitting what was already in their internal documents, that they're going to begin having federal break-ins over local news.
If this has been an actual alert, this message would contain specific information on the watch or warning being issued.
Well, it's really happening. Bona fide tyranny is coming to our shores. If you look at Egypt, you've witnessed how the government has seized control of the TV and radio stations. But in the United States, the federal government doesn't need to do that, because under changes in FCC regulations over television and radio in 1996, EAS emergency systems are put in at the radio or TV towers. They're also put in at the national and local cable systems, where the federal government puts a box in at the transmission tower where they can flip a switch and shortwave towers nationwide take over those computers and put out an audio signal of whatever message they want. Senator John Rockefeller, goes by Jay Rockefeller, has announced they need to end the internet, that it's bad, and that private companies will have government hubs tied into them to snoop on everyone without warrants and to be able to shut down the web instantly. See, right now the government has to get warrants and go out and seize all the hubs. Here's another one. America's secret police. Intelligence experts warn the proposal to merge two Pentagon intelligence units could create an ominous new agency. And the head of cybersecurity just resigned 3 weeks ago, saying the Pentagon and Homeland Security are taking over the internet and it's a threat to freedom in America. So their own guy's quitting, saying this takeover is happening. All the radio and TV in the nation under the emergency alert system in '96, under a federal law and executive order, FEMA is wired into the transmitters themselves and cable to take over all the systems and broadcast anytime they want. Before, the stations would tune to a signal themselves. Now that's out of their hands. All of that's going on. So see, they've got the preachers, they've got the citizens, they've got the military prepared for martial law, and they could remotely listen to you even when the cell phone's off. That's standardized the cell phones. And all telecommunications companies were given $9 billion total to put in whole floors for the NSA to move into. So the NSA doesn't tap the phone companies, they are the phone companies. Just like FEMA on all radio, TV, cable, you name it, is already in control with hubs at the transmitter site or at the satellite uplink site. The last piece of equipment, this is in my film Police State 2000, by the way. See, I was sitting there talking to the engineer in 1996 at KJFK-FM, and he calls me over and goes, look at this, Alex, they're ordering us to do this. Here's all the secret documents. We're not supposed to show this to anybody. And I was sitting there reading it. FEMA takes over through this. Everything you do goes through this system. I mean, that's what you hear when it goes, bang, bang, bang. You know, this has been an emergency alert system. That is a federal test tone going via shortwave radio transmitters, dials in, and takes control of your radio station. And that's what they say right here. During emergencies, when they're rounding people up and arresting them and shooting people, their job is to keep the media shut down. They don't have to come arrest Alex Jones. They hit one button, the internet shuts off. They hit one button.
If this had been an actual alert, this message would contain specific...
And welcome back to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. And what you were watching there during the break is a video Alex and I put together back in February of 2011 concerning the EAS takeover system that has been going on, well, since the mid-'90s when President Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996. And a few days ago, we got an email. Actually, Don forwarded me this email, and he said, hey, this guy might be interesting. And it wasn't cryptic, but it was a real short email, kind of to the point, saying, hey, I've been in this business for nearly 30 years, and everything Alex is saying is spot on. And he didn't really say he wanted to come on the show. I contacted him back. We've exchanged emails, talked to him on the phone. And our next guest, he calls himself now a critical infrastructure consultant. But since the mid-'80s, he's been working, you know, on those boxes that you see on the side of the road, those radio towers that you drive past every day, the things that you've never really opened up and looked inside. And we're showing some pictures of that now. And these are pictures that our next guest sent me of stuff that he's worked on all over Texas, New Mexico, California. He'll probably correct me on a couple of those, but he's been all over building these infrastructure, telecommunications apparatus, maintaining them. He knows how they work. And I think what you're about to hear is going to be a lot of validation from what Alex has been saying for years. You're going to hear from an industry expert. He's going by a pseudonym, James Knox, and he's been doing this for a long time. But he does have an email set up for if anybody wants to contact him. It's darkcomo@gmail.com, and we'll put that up on the screen when we start talking to him. And it's James Knox. How you doing today, James?
Thanks for inviting me on. And by the way, it's Darkcomo, C-O-double-M-O.
C-O-double-M-O. All right. I hope we have that graphic right. I might have wrote it down wrong. We do have it right on the graphic. There we go.
Cool.
We win. All right. So basically, this is my first question for you, and then we'll get into your background and some other stuff you've done. But Alex Jones has said this many times. He has said, you know, the telecommunications companies, you know, the NSA doesn't have to hack into them because the NSA is the telecommunications companies. Is that a true statement? And how, if it is, how close to the truth is it, and whatnot?
Well, you know, really, it would be how you want to look at that. I mean, you could say that, you know, to associate them in the sense of, do they have the same ability? In some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. And a lot of that really comes down to the legality and the way that the administration decides to perceive the laws, and in this case, especially the Telecommunications Act and CALEA. So what happens is, effectively, for them to monitor the packets or the data, the phone call, the email, whatever, it really doesn't matter. They do have that access. They don't have access to, say, the billing records, which is why you see this deal with Verizon today, and them going to Verizon and saying, hey, we want all this metadata. And that all comes out of the billing architecture of the switch. But CALEA, this CALEA legislation put forth a deal where there's a point of presence in every central office in the United States. It's communications access for law enforcement authorities. It's to protect us from the boogeyman. So in essence, what Alex says is right, but are they in business together? No, but are they in cahoots? Oh yeah, and a lot of what happens is if these boys want to roll into a central office somewhere and put up a carnivore box or anything else, me or anybody else working there is probably going to ask who they are, and then if the badges get flipped, you're going to go, yeah, okay, man. And you're not going to ask questions because you know better.
Right. Well, let's go into your background a little bit.
Long answer, but that's really kind of the nutshell of the whole thing, because his short answer does put it all together. So, you know, again, I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It puts a lot of perspective into things. They're not exactly the same, you know, they're not a government entity, but they are basically opening the floodgate for that information to go straight to the government whenever they want it, you know, but there's so much information, you know, now it's getting ridiculous. But let's go into your background a little bit. You sent me your resume. It's very, you know, you got a lot of field service work. Let's see, what else? Engineer work, operations manager work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field and how you've seen it change since you started in the mid-'80s to what you see today?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. Well, I got into it in 1984, you know, graduated high school early. Actually, I finished my senior year in a month through the whole homeschool program. And then went in the service, was offered to go to West Point, turned that down because that just seemed kind of too pansy to me. So, yeah, I know. No disrespect intended there. It was just kind of my feelings at the time. You know, I wanted to be an NCO, the guy that worked for a living.
Right.
So anyway, going forth, I got into this strategic microwave systems repair course, which was the longest course in the military, which got me doing ComSec and a bunch of things that, you know, I really don't want to go into that stuff in my background because much of it is classified and is still classified as far as I know, and will stay so until I die. So, you know, I really don't want to go into that stuff. So moving forward, I got out after 6 years and then went into the commercial world, and we started deploying and maintaining networks for the Forest Service, power plants, utility companies, oil companies, cellular systems. And in about 95, it's huge. It was about 500,000 towers were built in the U.S. I did a whole network of 66 hops in Texas down by your area. Spent a year and a half doing it. And it encompassed from Corpus Christi to San Antonio, out to Del Rio, out to Langtree, down to Brownsville, and back up to Corpus. That's all still there. And what we would do, you know, do all the engineering, get all this stuff, deploy it to the field, transport it out, install it, turn it up, test it, and basically, here you go. And then they light it up with the BTS equipment, which is the cellular equipment. And then that all gets taken up and put back to what's called a MITSO, which is a mobile transmission switching office, which is just like a central office, except it's for the mobile or cellular side of the house. And then that goes up. So that was a huge outgrowth within America. Was the cellular network, and that really changed the look of things. And also at that time, you had Clinton pushing and getting signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which really changed the telecommunications industry huge. And I probably don't want to go into that yet, and maybe I ought to stop for a second. And, you know, you want me to keep going on this?
No, let's keep going on the Telecommunications Act of 96, because it is a large piece of legislation. Just on Wikipedia, you can find the first significant overhaul of the telecommunications law in more than 60 years. So obviously, you're going to have a lot of things encompassing that. It was the first act to communications bill to have the internet into it, and it is very large. So why don't you kind of give us an overview of that, and then the things that you saw about it, because you said you were speaking out about it back in the 90s when this thing was going on. And what were the things that you saw that you didn't like about it?
A lot of it came to pass in 2000, and it was done via software package upgrades with AT&T. And, you know, like you said, the TCA is a very large piece of legislation. So I think I'm going to stick more to CALEA and stick to that, because that's really what is going to touch everyone's life and does now touch everyone's life.
Right.
So what they did when they implemented these software packages is not only they made a lot of money off of you, the subscriber, because in the end, look at your phone bill, look at all the taxes, look at all the little fees that are on there.
Yeah, you're paying.
Look at, and you have no idea what it is.
You're paying for that surveillance grid.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I said you're paying for this surveillance grid. That's what we're doing right now.
Exactly. You are, everybody, every one of us is paying them to spy on us if they choose. And I got a lot to say about that, but let me back up here and talk about the TCA and CALEA. So anyway, to speak just to CALEA, the big thing that it created that I really saw as a problem and I was real worried about was this access. Because the problem with access is, even though it's filtered, they have access. So you have to give them trust. And, you know, I don't know about you and everybody out there, but I was taught and raised, you never trust the government. You know, I'm here to help you. I don't think so. And I think some of that is lost in America, but that's another subject. So anyway, it created this point of presence, this access point that's a physical layer interface for the authorities, public servants, to access every central office in America. So what that basically means that when I pick up my smart device, smart devices in my house that are connected to your wireless router in your home, your internet access, your email, what you do, what kind of porno you like, if your wife watches it with you, And, you know, you can go down that trail a lot. And the only reason I use that is I want to make the point people need to understand these people are looking in your bedroom. They will watch you copulate if they can. And like Alex says, they're a bunch of sycophants. And they are. But I'll leave that part to Alex. He probably does it better than me. So anyway, but that point of presence, it creates this, it's like having a guy like me at the keyboard. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is sit up to a terminal that's hot to this system, and they can access this database any way they want. So jumping forward very rapidly today, and what we see, you sent me this link about the yottabytes and the repository that's in Utah. And, you know, that's because storage has gotten so cheap. It's cheaper to throw a hard drive away and destroy it than it is to take the time to erase it now. So what they're going to do is they have this open pipeline. And they're not spying on you. They're just collecting the everything data, the internet. I mean, just everything within the transport pipe. Because really, you can think of it as a piece of pipe. And, you know, just like in plumbing. And it fills up. So they've got this little valve that goes in there, and it reads everything about whatever's flowing through there, and it makes a copy of it, and it stores it in this little box in Utah. And it's just sliced up to time and where it was and whatever. And, you know, there's certain things about it, however they decide to. And then Joe Analyst says, hey, Rob Dew, let's see what that guy did back in 2013. So they go back and look, and they see everything that you've done, everything and anything, email,
analyzing government corruption, everything.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was I would be that's what they would catch me on, analyzing government corruption.
Yeah, and you know, we could even jump from that to the NDAA.
Yeah,
and think about this. Okay, you're going and looking at government corruption. Okay, but, you know, I'm a squirrely CIA. Christians in action is what they like to call themselves when Bush was in office. I met a guy that kind of tried to recruit me in at the ranch there. It's in the middle of nowhere in south of Bakersfield. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, I met this guy, and he was real adamant. He was up at Davis recruiting youngins to go in the CIA, Christians in Action. And I kind of walked away. You know, he thanked me for my service and all that. It was just kind of an interesting meeting. I don't know if I was set up and they were looking, you know, checking up on me or what. But nonetheless, it happened. Strange thing. So I just found that interesting that they chose to be so seemingly religious right about the whole thing. I haven't had any contact with those folks, so I couldn't tell you what their you know, behavior's like today. But you know, those are things that I just, and you know, of course, I pay attention to because of my background.
We were talking about the filter going from Utah, basically making a copy of everything that's going out into the communications telesphere, and then you have analysts looking at that and then targeting people. Say they find a person of interest. Well, they can go in, type in everything that they've ever done and bring up a list, and then they could cross-reference that with keywords, any of that stuff, and then pull that in and build a profile on somebody really quickly. And yes, using that information, they could either plant evidence on you. They could do a lot of different things.
Yes, they could. I mean, you talk about planting evidence. You know, think about what can be done with Photoshop these days, or manipulating documents. Which then one big one comes to mind.
Well, hold on. Actually, your Skype cut out the second you were talking about. I believe you were mentioning the Obama's birth certificate. Was that correct?
Yes. Just as you know, a manipulated document that is.
Well, they manipulated the sound right there. That was. I mean, I could read your lips, and you were talking about the birth certificate, but there was no audio right at that spot. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Yeah, that's kind of an abomination, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, getting back to the birth certificate, you know, that's something that they said, you know, here's this copy. This came straight out of the books in Hawaii, but it's got all these layers on it. The letters match up perfectly. I mean, total bad Photoshop mess. We looked at it the day it came out. I threw it into Illustrator, pulled the layers apart. 30 different layers pop up, different letters, some little passages, and people were on, the defendists were out there going, oh, well, that's just because the way it reads the document. I'm like, no, it's not. These are layers, people. I've looked at plenty of documents in my time, and I've done plenty of Photoshop in my time, so I know how it works.
Right.
So, that's basically what we're looking at overall. Why I wanted to get you on was to talk about that the government has the capability to go in and do this stuff, and whether people want to believe it, they want to stick their head in the sand or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, you've been working on this stuff for nearly 30 years. I mean, how easy is it for the government to, with a few keystrokes, find out who you are, where you live, what you're doing, what you like to eat, what you like to buy on the web, who you talk to? I mean, how easy is that?
If they have access to the infrastructure created by Leah, it's as easy as sitting in front of a terminal and typing in your name or whatever keywords I want to search for. And within that fast, I'm going to get hits, whatever, it's just like doing a Google search, except I'm searching data points in actual intel that exists on hard drives in some repository somewhere, and you got a database analyst that's creating this huge database. Now, I've never seen this database, so I can't say it exists, but I'm a libertarian, and I have been for a very long time, long before, things kind of became what they were today. I pretty much, and then I was a libertarian, but a pragmatic Republican when Reagan was around, but things have changed with that for me anyway. But that being said, people used to say to me all the time, geez, James, why do you stay in this business? You don't agree. I'd say, well, yeah, but you know how to build it, you know how to take it apart, which I probably shouldn't say in public, but I really don't care anymore, because that's the point. And that's what people need to understand is, yes, it can be taken apart, but they need to know that it exists and it's there. And it's set up such that you don't see it. It's just like you go to a casino in Las Vegas. You ever notice how just nondescript the security system is, but in reality, it's very difficult to find any place to stand where you're not being monitored by some camera?
And a team of people watching you. We were doing an interview with Dr. Russell Blaylock in the Wynn Casino Hotel, that big system, the big Wynn setup.
$2 billion, I believe that one cost, didn't it? We
pulled out a little camera real quick. I'm like, oh, let's get a shot of the roulette wheel. We'll use this in the video. I pulled that out. I shot for literally 6 seconds, and somebody was standing behind me going, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? I said, how did you get here so fast? He goes, I can't tell you that. He goes, but you got to put that camera away. You can't. And I wasn't even in the casino. I was in the adjoining area where you eat, and it had windows open to the casino because they want to, they want you to see it at all times.
Right.
One of the interesting things I thought is when you're riding the elevator, the music's real soft, and when the elevator opens, it's the same music, but it's super loud. That has a big psychological effect on you.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, whoa, I'm going to go gamble now. Really creepy area of, Las Vegas is totally creepy. But going into that, you don't see the surveillance that's there. And it's not like they're sitting there, on the red lights. You see those cameras. But there's cameras that you're not seeing, and
they're everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, I've done a lot of security. Matter of fact, when I was at Fort Huachuca, the shop that I ran, and I can talk about this. None of this is classified. Fort Huachuca was becoming a military intelligence school, which it is fully now. But I built the interrogation center for the school, and that was kind of cool because I got to learn the Army's interrogation techniques and all that and how they set it up. But in talking to some of at least the Army guys, and everybody kind of follows that anyway. The whole idea is to set the cameras up such, and they go around, and the engineers that do it, and they set it up with the idea that they're looking for dead spots, and if they find one, they put up another camera because they don't. And that's the thing, that's another big deal here that people need to understand is these items have become throwaway items, and they're ultra high-tech items. I mean, this webcam that I'm communicating over now, my wife just bought it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's $100, does 1080p, Works very well, plug and play, you know, and here I am, I'm online. You know,
Yeah, that didn't exist,
to set up.
you know, 10 years ago. That technology wasn't around. Or if it was, we had no access to it.
And it cost a fortune.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have access to it. You know, the CIA has been talking with this stuff for years, and the other government entities. Hey, I want to go to some of these articles. I did send you some, and we covered them last segment. I want to jump to the FBI now wants backdoor to all software. And I'll just read the first paragraph here. The FBI is unhappy that there are communication technologies that they cannot intercept and wants to require that software makers and communications companies create a backdoor so they can listen in when they desire. How does that make you feel?
In all honesty, that's totally classic. And just by way of example, we used to sell crypto devices to the South Koreans, and they ended up finding out about this, but I'm not sure I should talk about that, so that's all I'm going to say. But we sold this device called an SW-15, which was an exact duplicate of a device that we used, but the SW-15 had a modification. It had a backdoor. So that's another thing that people have long been fooling themselves. I have always felt comfortable hiding in plain sight for one reason: the Constitution. Never have I feared my government the way I fear my government today. And knowing that I built the systems and the networks, because without what I built, none of this works. It all goes away. I mean, you know, the smart meter, all this stuff. I mean, I can tell you down to the screws how every one of these networks work. I can sit here and tell you how the transport systems work, what the architecture of the packets are. You know, we could strip the Ethernet out. We can go into Wireshark, and I can show you how we can do deep packet inspection. I can do all that stuff right here. All I need is the access. You know, matter of fact, about 5 miles as a crow flies from here is the railroad tracks, which is, well, it's the I-80, you know, crossing. That goes up over Tahoe. There's fiber, there's glass. You know, that's major coast-to-coast glass right there. If I had access to the CLIA point of presence right there, I myself, with Wireshark and a bunch of hard drives, could set up a network. I could drive every bit of data that goes through those optics. I even know ways to do it without them finding out that I'm doing it. Actually.
Well, and how many of you are there out there that have been doing this, or that could do this?
Well, it's kind of weird. I know more dead people than I do alive people anymore in this business, and that really is the truth. But then I did a lot of tower climbing too, and I can pretty much tell you stories about, you know, usually about one guy a year, you know, falls off the tower somehow and dies.
Yeah.
It's actually considered the most dangerous in the world. I saw it that way because for me it was nothing but fun. But
right,
I should send you some pictures of that. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I bet.
I digress, though.
Those towers are huge. Let's go to this next one. Phone sex, banks, and Google for emails. The NSA is bigger than Verizon, which is where they were asking for the billing data, which you were alluding to earlier. That's the one thing they don't have is the billing data there. And
that goes back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What's your take on that article? And you know, the fact that this information is now starting to come out more and more. We're starting to, you know, before nobody would ever talk about this stuff. It was, you're crazy. Now it's coming out.
Right, and I think it's because it's too big. You know, you could hide it before because it was total. But once they started using it in the daily basis, how do they hide it? And, you know, another thing, just to kind of throw in here, I don't know if people know that Facebook is publicly funded by, guess who? The CIA.
Yeah. Yeah. We've covered that.
I would recommend everybody go to, like, the C-SPAN archives and look at the Telecommunications Act of 96 hearings, and especially the hearings about the carnivore device.
Oh, right.
But anyway, this here... See, this is the point. This is what I built the internet that this rides on. So I've known this has existed and this capability has existed since the CALIA infrastructure was implemented. So there's no surprise here, but the surprise has always been getting people to understand that this exists. And usually people go, but they're not going to use it for bad things. It's okay.
It's only for terrorists. It's only for terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're selling it for. And if you believe there's a boogeyman, no. You know, it's kind of like, and I'm probably going to take a hit for this one, but I caught this article about the LGBT heckler with Michelle Obama.
Right, right.
Do you know that it's about 4% of the population is those folks?
Right.
Why is it such a big deal?
It shouldn't be. They should be able to do what they want. We should be able to do what we want. You know?
Exactly. But
it's turned into a divisive issue to get people to start turning on each other.
Right. Okay. And what I was going to say with that, and this is the big deal to me, I think to me that's a psyop. It's flat diversion, because they want that. It distracts you from the real issue, and the real issue is that you have no freedom. Big Brother is here. Big Brother lives in your house. If you know, once we're offline and not doing this, my webcam will be unplugged.
Oh, right. Exactly.
If you want to get away from your cell phone, wrap it in tinfoil.
Right.
If the battery's out of it, it still has a capacitor in it that'll allow it to work for a certain period of time. So anyway, I guess what I'm really trying to say is that people need to believe this. I mean, if you like, I can explain deeper, but I kind of start feeling like I'm repeating myself.
Well, I want to go back to two things you were touching upon. One, the Facebook CIA angle. Sean Parker, one of the co-founders of Facebook before it took off big, when he was 16 years old, he got busted for hacking. Who was he visited by? The CIA.
Exactly.
And then what does he do? He forms Napster, which is this MP3 technology that nobody was using at the time, and we're supposed to believe a kid in a dorm came up with this algorithm and able to send this stuff back and forth without any help from anybody at all.
No.
And then we see him, and then he shows up next to Facebook when it's taken off. He just happens to be there. I mean, we're supposed to believe that this is just, oh, he's the only guy that could do this. And, you know, he kind of looks like a CIA, you know, starting off as he was handled, and then he becomes a handler. Now, I can't prove any of that. I don't know if any of that's true, but that's what it looks like from the surface. And then you see all the other Facebook NSA ties going out there, and, you know, it makes you wonder. And they have the big thing with their IPO. It tanks, but the guys cash out and make a lot of money. And, you know, it's just over and over again. They seem to just have, you know, the golden gloves with every situation. And you were talking about how they're spying on you through your home. I want to go to this article. CIA chief will spy on you through your dishwasher.
Yes.
This is David Petraeus talking about the CIA director. He was talking about, you know, these new things that they're going to be able to just go in and through any device, through the electrical lines, which are why the smart meters are so important, they'll be able to spy on you. Right. They'll turn your whole system, your whole house, into a giant spyware device.
Exactly. And what they're doing, if you're familiar with broadband over power line?
Yes. Yes. That's a big thing. They have lights that can communicate.
Same architecture. So basically, the AC network in your house becomes a communications network.
Right.
And all they're doing is taking and modulating a signal onto the 60 hertz signal that exists on the power line, and they communicate. I could get into the whole brass tacks, but everybody'd fall asleep. Yeah, that all exists. So if you have these devices, and if they have a camera and a microphone, and like this camera, and probably all of them now, they have motion detection. Mm-hmm. I know I can even turn this camera on, so if I move my head, the
it'll focus
will
on
actually follow by some means.
Yeah, that goes back to, we were looking at another article a few years ago about police stations were getting outfitted with these special light systems, and the lights would actually flicker at rates. The humans wouldn't notice this, but computers could read the flicker, and it could control the temperature. It could do all this stuff just through the lights flickering on and off. It's set up like a little binary type code that sensors would read. So this could be done on...
actually, that would be just like a teletype machine, and they would use, it would just basically be visual frequency shift keying.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, you know the technical terms of it.
It's kind of akin to SOS.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of a binary Morse code through light and whatnot, which is exactly what, Morse code was through sound, and this is just doing the same thing with light. We got so much we could talk about. We're definitely going to have you on again. Very interesting. We can talk about smart meters next time if you want to come on and talk about that.
Oh, sure.
We had a lady talk about that on Monday. Very interesting lady. But I want to end it with, today is actually the 64th anniversary of the printing of 1984. And I think it's apropos that we've got Bilderberg trying to hold secret meetings over across the pond in England. You happened to contact us this week to talk about the very spy hubs that are set up and paid for by us, and we don't even realize it, or it's just something that you can't believe. It's so fantastic. And here you are, somebody who's built these things for 30 years saying, hey, it's all true. I mean, what world are we living in now?
By my reckoning, be afraid. Be very afraid, because we have a bunch of not so highly intelligent, and I'm not sure we can trust their motives, individuals that have access to these systems, and they have access to everything. I mean, like you were saying, Rob, and this is what people really need to stop and think about, is when somebody can access this, like Facebook, and Facebook, becomes this, you're giving it to them for free. You're telling them what you do in your life, and a person could go on there, and if they're looking, and if they have access to these more things, the things that you think they don't know, and they can sit there for an hour or two and figure out what your political beliefs are, what your sexual bent is, what kind of food you like to eat, what kind of sports you're into, where you shop, how often you talk on the phone, on and on and on. Within a couple hours, they know who you are, and you don't even know they went and looked at it.
Yeah, it's very scary. I want to give you any final closing thoughts before we go today. It's been a great interview. This is James Knox, and he's a critical infrastructure. What did I have there? Yeah, critical. I've lost your resume.
Oh, it doesn't. It's basically I'm a telecommunications consultant.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know, I've worked on all the other systems that go along with that. So, anything with critical infrastructure and telecommunications, that's been my life. Cellular. We always made a joke: DC to daylight. Meaning, radio all the way up to large fiber optics networks.
Right.
The last large network I did, just to kind of maybe so people know that, I'm not kidding. I am who I say I am. And no, I'm not using my real name, but that's because my name's kind of weird. There's only one of me in the world. James is my first name, though. Anyway, if anybody wants to contact me, I set up that email just for that purpose.
Right.
For any reason, I'm just kind of curious. I've never done anything like this before. I'm just kind of sick and tired of seeing what's going on. Matter of fact, can I talk about what happened to me the other night, Rob?
Yeah. I'll set it up for you. We'd talked on the phone, shared some emails back and forth, and then I got one. I saw it late at night. And I guess this incident already happened, but you got a visit from our officials. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I had gone through and I had cleaned my 50 and wanted to run it. I think actually it's up here on the shelf. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it up there?
I could see the outline of it. Yeah.
And, it's pretty loud. It's a 50 Action Express, and I was shooting that, and then I was shooting my Glock 33.
Oh, the Second Amendment. Oh, evil American.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Since we're playing show and tell, right? You'll like this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a Kimber 1911 Eclipse.
Oh, nice. I like that trigger. That's cool.
Yeah, this trigger breaks like glass. This thing is really sweet. This was a birthday gift for my wife. As was that one. That's a 3378 Krieger custom outfitter Weatherby.
Right. So you were out enjoying the Second Amendment, wasting some ammo that's in short supply. And what happened?
Sorry. So I walked in, and okay, I got to set this up as where I live. I have a tree right off my deck, and I shoot off my deck off, and I have a 22 that sits in the kitchen on the shelf, literally. I just open the door, and I plink off a few rounds, and there's a bunch of holes in the tree. You know, this has been going on for a while. But I have this neighbor issue. This guy, because he was illegally accessing my property, and he didn't want to do it the right way, so I just had to close it off. Long story short. So he's harassed me. I'm sure that it's them calling. I guess the cop figured that out, but he shows up at 9:30, well, almost 10 o'clock at night. My wife is in bed. My wolf, I have an Arctic wolf, and she alerted me because she speaks and, you know, she has different barks. So I grab this pistol here, which has a light and a laser, and I walk outside. I'm walking out the deck, and I come up like this. I turn around, and I'm like, hey, who are you? At that point, I have this officer dead bang. And I don't know who he is because I can't see him. Next thing I see is a flashlight in my face and him going, we're the sheriff. And I'm going, who are you? Put the light down. I can't see you. I'm the sheriff. I can't see you. Put the light down. He wouldn't put it down. I put my weapon down and dropped the light. And then he tells me to come there. And I'm thinking, no, I've seen enough interactions with the officials and an armed individual. So I basically very loudly said, no, I'm going in the house. After that, I asked my wife to call the sheriff's office and find out what was going on. It turns out they came to find out if I was shooting safely because somebody had called 3 days previously because they heard high-powered rapid fire, which I guess means that it's more dangerous that way. Well, it turns out he talks to my wife yesterday, and as long as my wife swore that Second Amendment Jim was being a good boy, he wouldn't bother us anymore because he didn't want us to feel like we were on trial.
Oh, how nice of him. You know, on your own property even, you know.
Yeah, you know, it was, we had a saying in the Army, Bohica. Bend over, here it comes again.
Well, we're going to leave it at that. This has been a great interview. Very interesting person. And we didn't even touch, I don't think we even scratched the surface of where, you know, this country is headed, especially in that Big Brother Orwellian police state that we see now, and that is finally being talked about in the mainstream media. You know, Alex was making Police State 2000, showing the EAS broadcasting boxes, those takeover systems. We didn't even get into that and how that works.
No, absolutely.
You know,
that's another under network of its own.
Right. Right, yeah, and that's just one that the government can go, we're cutting everything off, and, you know, they're going to do it in video games, they're going to do it online. Basically, any mode of communication that's out there, they want to be able to break in and talk over it.
The one thing that I know it seems a lot of people are interested about is the internet kill switch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The internet kill switch, now, it's okay to look at it like that, but I look at it in the sense of what you have to think is you're the big daddy spider and you got your little baby spiders everywhere, right? And you've got the main control panel or terminal. So it comes to, you can shut off individuals, you can shut off central offices, you can shut off main transport hubs, 1, 2, 1,000, you know, whatever you want to do. You could even do it with scripts so that it was a fully automated process. So the point I'm trying to make, yeah, they can shut it all down at once, but it also could be disrupted in any number of ways. And actually, it could be very easily disrupted, and then they turn around and say, hey, it was a terrorist act, which is...
Yeah. We got to control it all.
Nonsense. I just thought maybe we should just at least hit that internet kill switch thing.
No, that's good. I mean, there's so many different facets to this issue of communication and how we communicate because, yeah, while we have the access to talk via Skype through video and all that, they're recording all this. They're making a record of all this. But I think it's good that you're speaking out now, and I'd encourage people to contact you if they got any questions and, you know, become a voice out there because we need more people like you to stand up and say, hey, you know, what crazy Alex Jones is saying is actually true. You know,
yeah, you know, that really kills me when I hear the crazy Alex Jones thing, especially my friend on, what's that chick on NBC or MSNBC?
Oh, Rachel Maddow.
Yes,
Mr. Maddow, yeah.
Oh. Oh my God. I better not even go there. I'll say something that I probably shouldn't.
Exactly. Hey, we'll talk to you again soon. This has been great. Thanks for coming on the show. And
hey, thank you, man. Really enjoyed it. And, I was a little nervous because I'm sure they're going to go hit my file at Langley now, but I honestly don't care. I had a lot of fun. I'd love to do it again. And, there's a lot to talk about. And, people, please, check it out. Talk to, contact me. None of this is classified. It's all out there. And everything I'm telling you is the straight up truth. Peace.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Well, that was James Knox coming to us from California, telecommunications expert extraordinaire, and we're going to have him on a lot in the future. I have a feeling he's just got a lot of information. We didn't even cover, we scratched the surface on it, covering some stuff. Well, let's all say happy birthday to 1984 as well. It is 64 years old, and what have we learned? That the government is further encroaching on our civil liberties, on our privacy. While they want privacy, while they don't want to talk about what they're doing, they want to know everything you're doing out there. So with that, if you're watching this on YouTube, this has been a 40-minute interview. Got 5 guys out there running the control booth and getting stuff together, building graphics and all that. Only 4, all right. They're correcting me. But become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. We could use the support. PrisonPlanet.tv is where you can go for all the information, the nightly news, the radio show, get it streamed live. You could go back and access the archives. We got movies, just straight up interviews that we've done with people all over the country, ebooks, rants, it's all there. $5.95 a month. You can share your username and password with up to 11 people at the same time. So you could all be on watching this. And the InfoWars magazine right here. This is our Bilderberg edition. It is still available. We still have a few in stock. It's got the double cover. There's a Skeletor crawling through the reflecting pool. And you can learn about Bilderberg and find out what they're doing there. That's Eric Schmidt on the front cover. You can get lots of different subscription things are available. You got a 20-pack, a 10-pack, a 50-pack, a 100-pack. You can get a 50-pack subscription. Comes with a stand. It's all there. Check that out, InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsShop.com. And with that, this has been a marathon InfoWars Nightly News, but, it is the birthday of 1984, so we have to celebrate it correctly and show you how you are being spied on, how Big Brother is watching you. And with that, I'm Rob Dew, and this has been the InfoWars Nightly News.